Welcome, everybody. I'm Marc David, founder of the Institute for the Psychology of Eating. We're in the Psychology of Eating podcast, and I'm with Isabelle today. Welcome, Isabelle.
Hi, Marc. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to be in a great conversation. And let's start off by me asking you if you can wave your magic wand and get whatever you wanted with food and body. What would that be for you?
For me, it's not so much about the weight loss per se. It's more about creating the environment where I feel emotional calm and a connection to my body when it comes to eating, binge eating or just excess eating or reaching for all of those sugary foods. That's where I really would love your guidance. And I wanted just to recall on a situation in about a year ago where there was a 6-week time frame where I felt so calm and peaceful and a real sense of emotional safety in my life. And what was interesting is that it's like my eating dysregulations got completely regulated. It was so easy to follow my body wisdom during that time frame. And within 6 weeks, I lost 3 inches on my waistline. And it didn't feel like a struggle. It just felt natural and it felt so, so good. And I would love to hear your guidance and your wisdom on how I can potentially get back or create a longer term environment for my body to get back to that space.
How do you think you got there? How did you end up there in that amazing 6 weeks?
It's an interesting question because in the last year and a half, I've been going through uncovering and disclosing some childhood trauma. And in that 6 weeks, what happened for me is that I felt with my mom, for example, in that situation, that like that childhood wound was completely, how to say, if not healed, but cared for. And it was just a feeling of deep healing for me. And it was just so incredible because at other times I could have been doing the nutritional aspect, or I could have been doing the exercise. And still, when I reached that emotional calm, that is where the magic happened for me. And I think with what I've been going through with my trauma, it's that sense of safety, I think, the emotional safety that really got me there.
Mm-hmm. So in that 6-week period, can you just give me a few more details about what was different for you? What did you notice?
I noticed that my body completely relaxed, which is amazing because I think looking back now, I realize that for a large part of my life, I think that I have been living in some sort of survival mode emotionally, on and off. But so I relaxed. I felt a deep sense of calm. I just felt at peace with things. And like I said, the emotional wound, it felt like it was healing. It was just a deep feeling of peace. And in terms of my eating, instead of reaching for the cookies or the ice cream or the sweet sugary foods that I would normally reach for to deal with my intense emotions, suddenly I felt like, well, actually, I don't really need those cookies. I'm going to reach for something healthier. Like it was so easy to follow my own wisdom, so to speak. And I just love that.
How old are you, Isabelle?
I'm 47.
47. Do you have kids?
I have a daughter who's 6 years old.
Wow. All right. And are you in relationship?
I am married. Yes.
How long have you been married for?
15 years, actually.
All right. And so how long ago was that 6-week kind of magical time for you?
It was about a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
And it was interesting because it was in the middle of a time when like I said, the last year and a half when I started going through my childhood stuff and my trauma, and that period just sort of appeared. And it was about a year ago. It was just a nice break from the intense emotions and everything else I've been experiencing during that time.
Mm-hmm. Are your parents still alive?
My mother is, yes. My dad passed a few years back.
Uh-huh. And are you in relationship with your mom these days?
Yes, I am actually. We have a good relationship. She recently moved from the West Coast to our community here in Gatineau, and that's been a really good move. She separated from my stepdad, who it turns out that yes, he was. There was some sexual abuse there in my adolescence, and so it was a very intense time in my life. So we're in a relationship, my mom and I. We have a good relationship, but obviously we're still going through some things together as it relates to that.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Really, that's a lot, and I know it's a lot for you, and I would imagine it's also a lot for your mom to really sort of face that story and that past.
It is. It was something that happened to me over 30 years ago, and the only way I could deal with it at the time was to put it in a box and just not talk about it, really, not fully talk about it. Even to my husband, I had not fully disclosed I had disclosed about 75% of the details, but there was a part of it that I had not until about over a year ago, a year and a half ago. And that was hard. And it was hard for my mom, obviously, to hear what had happened because she had no idea.
Mm. Has anything changed for you since that 6-week time in terms of your day-to-day relationship with food? I get that there was this, special time when things just fell into place more at peace, and then maybe things got back to a little bit normal. But has there anything you noticed that, oh, here's a shift that I'm seeing, or here's something different about me in relationship to food, in relationship with my body that I'm noticing?
Well, since that 6-week time frame last year, it's interesting because I actually went through a second trauma. It was unexpected because after some time that my mom moved back here, I realized that I was still triggered. And so I had to continue to peel the layers off of this situation. And like I went through a dark period, and and instead of continuing with the same nice habits and reaching for the healthier foods, I just spiraled downwards again for a while. The emotions were intense, and it was like uncovering the other half of my childhood trauma, which was more related to my mom's role, or the whole family dynamics, and to make peace with that in a way, and so that we can have a harmonious, positive relationship also now. And so that's where I went, and I went back to reaching for those sugary foods, and it just brought me back to kind of right from the beginning. So that short period was not very long lasting for me.
Mm-hmm. Well, Isabelle, first, I want to just really commend you on doing good work on yourself. And it sounds like you might have had a little help. Were you getting any coaching or therapy?
Absolutely. I went through some therapy, quite a bit actually, some self-guided education, and I went through a lot of different things, and it really, really helped. And now I find that that was quite a few months ago. I find myself back in a place of calm, but just not quite at that place where I was last year. I want to get back to that so that instead of reaching for the foods that don't make me feel good physically, I want to reach for those good foods that make me good and that promote my healing as well.
Mm-hmm. So I hear this story quite a bit of here we are at some point in our adult life, and we're able to just finally make connections about my eating today and how that's connected to my past, to my difficult past, to a challenging past. And I just want to mention to you how I'm kind of holding or contexting what happened for you in terms of that 6-week time. Oftentimes when we have insight and we make connections, here's what's happening. Here's why I've had this relationship with food where I turn to food for emotional soothing, because there's always a good reason for it. If I'm using food, if you're using food, if anybody's using food to soothe ourselves emotionally, there's a good reason, because there's emotions that need to be soothed. Granted, there might be other ways to soothe them, but a lot of times we don't know how to do that. And chances are, as a teenager, and you sort of alluded to this, you did the best you could at the time.
Mm-hmm.
You had a difficult challenge. What's the best that a 17-year-old girl could do at the time? For you, it was, okay, let me just deal with this. Let me put it in a box and get through my life.
Mm-hmm.
Because you didn't necessarily have the tools, you didn't have the wisdom, you didn't have the understanding, you didn't have the support to deal with it in a different way. So strangely enough, you did the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
You found a box to put it in. And I think what also happens when we put things from the past that were challenging or traumatic, when we put it in a box, what happens is it really doesn't just stay contained in the box. And it sort of talks to us. Mm-hmm. And it can talk to us in different ways. And one way that it talked to you was through your relationship with food.
Mm-hmm.
And the little challenges of, taking care of yourself and weight and eating. And you had an experience of what it's like to be a little free of that.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds to me like you had that 6-week experience because you did the work and you made connections, and sometimes it all just comes together, and there's a certain relaxation when we understand.
Yes.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's not just me. I'm not just some willpower weakling. There's nothing wrong with me. That makes perfect sense. And with that realization can come a relaxation.
Mm-hmm.
And with that relaxation, all of a sudden, you can be you.
Yes.
And you can make different choices that in the moment are just healthier for you, feel better for you.
Mm-hmm.
And then life started creeping back in again, or you went through another wave of, oh, now I have to deal with this other part.
Mm-hmm.
So my takeaway from that is an event like that 6 weeks, it's like a gift.
Yes.
It's a gift from the universe, and it's letting you know, here's what's possible.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes perfect sense to me that you do want to get back there. If I was in your shoes, I'd want to get back there too.
Yeah, absolutely.
we have a good experience of life. We, for whatever comes together, and all of a sudden, oh, that's the benchmark for me. That's the goal. I know what that feels like now. So I want to say that instead of, and I know you didn't say this, I don't see you having taken a step back. I see the whole picture as you took a step forward. It's almost like you time traveled into the future. Oh, here's what's possible. And now from this place, how do I get back there? What do I have to do?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes.
Because sometimes there are still some triggers now, with the situation with my mom. I had some grieving to do. There was some intense emotions, and however, the gift in the situation is that now I know that I have to find peace without relying on anybody else. Instead of relying on my mother or other people to bring that peace to me, now I can say, this is something I have to create for myself. And I think there's a gift in that. And I'm obviously transitioning into this, but it's not, it's a process. It's definitely a process.
I love your attitude and your perspective about it all. I really do, because it is a process, and it makes me think how I'm going to make a statement, and this statement I find is often true for women, not always, but often. And the statement is that our relationship with food and body often tracks our relationship with our mother. And that's for women. Your relationship with food and body will often track your relationship with your mother. And there was a time in that 6 weeks, on one level, you were at peace. And in general, because you made some deep connections. And there was probably a way you were also at peace with her.
Absolutely.
And then you started realizing, oh, wait a second, this experience with my stepdad, that's also part of a family system. And other people have a role to play. And so you're close with your mom, and you're more connected with your mom, and you're more understanding of your mom. Perhaps your mom now more understands you. And at the same time, the relationship, it doesn't sound like is exactly where you want it to be. It's still finding a new place. Is that true?
It's absolutely true. Yes. Yeah.
So I just want to say, just to notice that in my experience, for someone in your shoes, the more you work on that relationship, the more you're actually working on your relationship with food. Even if you guys never mention the word food, or never mention the word weight or emotional eating, or you never mention your body, whatever you do that helps move your relationship with your mother forward, by extension, will help you land in your body more. Because in a strange way, if you're in a household where you have a mother, your biological mother, and your stepdad, there's likely going to be the part of you that believes or feels that it's my mother's job to protect me.
That's exactly what my wound is. Absolutely. And that's exactly how I feel. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's my mother's job to protect me. Why? Like, this is my mother. This is my biological mother. That's who I came from. I don't know this guy, but this is my mother. And because you didn't get that protection, then you had to figure out how you feel better, how you feel protected. And honestly, turning to food is a way to feel safe. Food is readily available, and feeling good from food when you're not feeling good about yourself is predictable. If I eat, at least temporarily, I'm going to feel better.
Mm-hmm.
So in a strange way, food became your place of safety as a young person, is what I'm going to guess.
Yes, and actually when my daughter was born, I had a hard pregnancy, and I had some health issues after she was born as well for a very long time. But the food issue really became a thing around that time because I was so exhausted after the hard pregnancy, and it was difficult for me to recover for a very long time. And food was absolutely the only way for me at that time to survive and to to take care of my daughter, to have the energy to get up. And instead of the 20 pounds extra, now it was more like 60 for me. And it became a pattern. And then as my daughter was getting older, I started feeling really angry with my mom, with my stepdad, with my family dynamics. And it's almost like having had my daughter was really the trigger for me for everything. And so yes, absolutely. I agree with what you're saying. And food was where it was the symptom in a way. It was where I had to look at that because I was like, why do I reach for all of these foods when I could be reaching for healthier options? And it really brought me to this place.
Mm. It's a beautiful opportunity, you having a daughter, to, like you say, in a way, you're really going to relive your past. We often do that when we have a child, and especially when it's your same-sex child. When a mother has a daughter, you will especially, in an odd way, relive your childhood through her.
Yes.
And so as you're learning to provide safety for your daughter, you're realizing some of the safety that you didn't get. As you're realizing to be present for your daughter in certain ways, you're realizing how you were and people weren't, the big people in your life weren't being present for you.
Mm-hmm.
So, from my perspective, you're doing everything right. Really, you're doing everything right. I don't think you could be doing anything righter. There's always more to do. And, I'll probably mention some things that you likely already know, but I just want to affirm that, this is your special timing.
Mm-hmm.
Life gives each of us, I think, our own timing, and we get the things that we get maybe sometimes when we need them and when we're ready for them. And when you had your daughter, you were ready.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You were ready for a daughter, and you were ready to become, in a lot of ways, the mother that maybe you wished you would have had.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
I think moving forward, a big piece of the puzzle is really starting to notice that you, even though you're still your mother's daughter, she's still your mother, you're still her daughter, so you are technically a daughter. You're also a mother yourself, but you're technically a daughter. But you're the kind of daughter who no longer lives in your mother's house.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You don't live in your mother and stepdad's house.
Mm-hmm.
What happens is the young part of us that was wounded or traumatized, for you that sounds like a 17-year-old, were you living at their house at the time that was happening?
Yes, it was between 14 and 15 around that time. Yes. Yeah. And I was living at their house at that time.
Yeah. So I think symbolically, a part of us, the 14 or 15-year-old in you, still thinks that she's living in her mother's house.
Mm-hmm.
And i.e., this ain't safe.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not okay.
Mm-hmm.
So part of the healing is realizing, really feeling in your bones and in your cells every day, affirming to yourself, I'm a mother, I'm my own woman, and I no longer live in my parents' house. I no
Mm-hmm.
longer live in my mother's house. I no longer live in my stepfather's house,
Mm-hmm.
because it's the 14 or 15-year-old girl in you that's turning to food. It's
Right. Yeah.
it's not 47-year-old Isabelle who's wise and understands things. It's still that young part of you
Mm-hmm.
that sometimes needs to get soothed.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, you're already learning this. You're already learning, well, wait a second, I'm my own woman now. So in a lot of ways, you're individuating from your mother
Mm-hmm.
and your stepfather like never before,
Mm-hmm.
in a good way. Like you are your own person now.
Mm-hmm.
Part of not living in my mother's house anymore is, and I know you're doing this, is forgiving her more and more. So at the end of the day, there's a level where, as much as she might have screwed up, at the time she was doing the best that she could.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows what was going on in her brain? Who knows the things that she was aware of, not aware of, what she was capable of, her emotional intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
There's a place where, yeah, be angry at her. And at some point, in a strange way, how old is your mom now?
She's 72.
Yeah. At some point, this happens for a lot of us. Our parents, when they reach a certain age, start to become less of our parent and almost more of our kid.
Yes, I can relate to that.
Yeah, how so?
um, there's always been a part of me that felt that I was protecting her. And I would say that that's so true, especially since I've had that 6-week period. I realized that I had to grieve the mother I wish I had, and love the mother that I do have, because regardless of the faults or that she has, there's many, many good sides to her, and she brings a lot of positive to our lives as a grandmother and to our lives as well. But there's still that part that in some ways I feel that I've realized perhaps I've always been a parent to her in some kind of way.
Yes.
And even more so, and that's your comments very true, because I've been realizing this more and more now. And as you say, separating myself also, become my own voice, and being strong and setting boundaries. It's all part of the process, but it's when you come from that kind of toxic family environment, it's really not easy to do, especially later in life like this. And I understand why I kept it in a box and didn't want to see it at that time, but now I can see it, and that clarity brings me so much peace as well. And now I feel just I can accept it and not feel threatened by it or angry anymore, because for a very long time I felt so angry, even enraged at times. I didn't know why. Mm-hmm. I was angry at her, angry at my stepdad, but now it's like I'm okay with it. It happened, and there's been a lot of growth for me in that situation.
And having a daughter is almost, part of that is helps heal the whole system, because you're wanting to be the best mother for your daughter, and I'm assuming your mother is wanting to be the best grandmother. And and you realizing, yeah, you might be 47, but you can still grow in relationship with your mother. You can still create certain boundaries inside yourself and realize that it's, on the one hand, it's not your job to take care of her. And on the other hand, the strange twist of fate is that as parents get older, we often sort of take care of them.
Yes.
But it's a different kind of taking care of.
Yes.
It's the adult in you taking care of the aging person in her, the aging body in her.
Yes.
As opposed to, I have to save her emotionally, protect her emotionally. Her soul depends on what I do or don't do.
Yes, and I think that has stopped me in the past from speaking out or saying things. That's probably why it was boxed up for so long. And it feels so amazing to say, you know what, regardless of what happens, I'm ready to say it now and ready to shed light on it, regardless of, as you say, of her emotional state or her soul. And it's very freeing for me.
Yeah. That's to me, the work that you're doing is 85% of what you need to do to get where you want to go, maybe even more. I really mean that, because the more you are claiming yourself and the more you're creating a healthy relationship with her, starting with you and how you see things and what you do, and the more you're raising your daughter in a way that you're being, a better version of who your mother was. And it's not to say that she was this terrible version. It's just that, hopefully each generation improves on the next. Hopefully your daughter will be even a better, woman, human being, mother. She'll have ways where she advances the lineage.
Yes.
And we haven't even talked about, food yet and exactly what you do. And because in a strange way, the food piece is to me truly secondary to everything we just talked about for you. But let me ask you, these days, when you find yourself reaching for food, when food isn't really the right thing, or certain foods aren't really the right foods for you, what tends to spark that?
It varies. It can be anything from feeling happy or excited to feeling angry and sad or grieving. It's any range of emotion. And so I wish it was just one emotion, but unfortunately, it's almost that, like, anytime I feel a certain level of emotion, I think a certain intensity, that's where I can reach for carbs or sugary foods or excess food.
Got it. That's really helpful. I'm glad you noticed that. I just want to repeat back what you said just to make sure I got this. So for you, the eating foods that aren't really right for you can happen with just about any emotion. And it's generally related to the intensity of the emotion, even if it's happiness. Most of us might think, wow, if I'm really happy, why would I want to, emotionally eat or reach for food? And so what I see happening there is that at some age, whenever that was, might have been in your early teens, might have been before, but at some age, you learned or believed that a certain intensity of feeling in my body is too much for me. It's just too uncomfortable. If I'm feeling really happy, whoa, that's too much. A lot of people literally have a happiness ceiling. They have a happiness temperature. If they get too happy, they've got to bring themselves down. If I get too excited, I got to bring myself down. If I get too passionate, whoa, I got to bring that down. If I get too sad or depressed, whoa, I have to do something about that.
Mm-hmm.
So you hit a certain emotional temperature, doesn't matter what that temperature is, where in your body and being, you hit a discomfort point.
Mm-hmm.
And there's an automatic switch that goes off in your mind that says, we've got to bring this temperature down, and food will bring it down for you.
Mm-hmm.
So food can flatten our emotions,
Mm-hmm.
or it can bring them up to a certain place. Yeah, I'm a little depressed. I'm a little down. Have some sugar. Yeah, it could bring me up just a little.
Mm-hmm.
But it brings me out of that intense sadness, or it can bring me down from my intense happiness. So this is a long-winded way of saying what I think you're learning, and maybe learning for the first time in a very long time, if not forever, is how to be you, how to be Isabelle, and be this person in a body who has a full range of emotions, and I can make space for all my emotions, no matter how intense they are, no matter how up they are, no matter how down they are, no matter what they are. I can make space for that.
Wow, yeah.
I can hold that. Think of it like your daughter. How many times as a mother have you had the experience where your daughter's upset and she's crying, and what do? You hug her, you be present with her.
Mm-hmm.
Push her away and say, no, 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 too much crying, you're too sad. Go over there, and when it's over, I'll be able to deal with you. No, as a mother, you are present for her,
Mm-hmm.
right? No matter what she's going through, you're present for her.
Mm-hmm.
Some days she might have a tantrum, and you're present for her.
Mm-hmm.
So it's you learning how to stay in your body. Literally, it's about staying in your body when you start to feel intense emotions. One way to deal with sexual abuse, I'm going to simplify this, can be defined as very intense experience and feelings that happen in your body that so don't feel good that you have to get rid of those feelings, and you have to get rid of the intensity of it.
I didn't think of it that way. Yeah.
You have to do something with it. It's intense. Like, what the hell? What is going on? This is terrible. This doesn't feel good. This feels awful. This feels probably a range of feelings. And in order to do with that, I somehow have to exit my body. Because the body is the place where all the feelings are happening. If I'm able to somehow kind of step outside my body a little bit, check out. How do people check out? I can check out by just disappearing into, I don't know, movies, TV, Facebook. I can check out going to alcohol. I can check out going to drugs. I can check out just blowing off energy socially and not really paying attention to myself. I can check out with food. So food is not your problem. Food has actually been your solution to help you exit your body a little bit and regulate it at the same time. So it helps you escape just a little bit, like, oh, okay, that's not so intense anymore. And so again, because it kind of took me out of my body a little bit, now I don't have to feel all those intense emotions. Okay, now I can get back to work. Now I can get back to my business. It's a good short-term solution. It doesn't work for us long-term. So I'm saying the long-term strategy for you is to start to learn how to be a human being, a woman, how to be Isabelle at this time in your life at 47. And no matter what you're feeling, you have a place for it in your body. I'm going to make space for this.
Yeah. Yeah.
If I'm feeling really angry at my mother today, we were fine yesterday, and today I just saw her and I just feel angry. Great. So that's your signal to be present to that. How do you do that? Maybe it means you call a timeout and go sit somewhere and do some breathing and really feel it. Really feel how angry I am. Maybe it means journaling how angry I am. Mm-hmm. But it's inviting in whatever difficult emotion you're experiencing and knowing that your job is not to get rid of it. Your job is to sort of metabolize it. Your job is to let it live in you for a minute or two or 10 or 20, because it will resolve itself. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You're learning how to be with intense emotions.
Yeah.
Because previously, for your survival, you had to push away intense emotions. Mm-hmm. Sexual abuse is, amongst other things, a collection of intense emotions that we don't know what the hell to do with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we do the best we can. So even when you're happy, instead of saying, oh my God, when I usually get this happy, I turn to food, that's really bad, I shouldn't do that. Really what it is I'm happy. How do I breathe into that? Mm-hmm. How do I circulate that feeling in my entire body? Mm-hmm. So it's learning how to notice yourself and catch yourself when you're having an intense feeling of any kind. Mm-hmm. And the first move is, oh, I'm having this intense feeling. My job is to welcome it in. It's going to be intense. Mm-hmm. It's going to feel maybe a little hot, or it could feel not fun, or it can feel so fun that it's too much. But I want to try to stay in my body a little longer and be present to it. And literally feel it. And extend the amount of time between the moment the feeling hits and the moments that you're feeling it. You're just feeling it.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Yeah. That really resonates. And I feel like I'm beginning to learn how to do that. But when you put it like that, it makes complete sense that yes, I reach for foods when I feel any kind of intense emotion. Mm-hmm. Mm.
So it's learning to notice, wow, here's me, here's Isabelle, and I've got some intense emotion or emotions going through my system. Oh, okay, that's happening right now. First move, just deep breath. First move, just maybe sit down or lie down and just center yourself a little bit, be in your body. And even if it starts to feel intense, just do some deep breathing. Mm-hmm. And just you're learning to stay with yourself. Mm-hmm. It's a practice.
Sorry.
I'm saying it's like a practice. You just practice it every day or every time it shows up for you. You were going to say, yeah.
The food part is that it feels like I'm disconnected when I reach for those foods. It doesn't feel natural to me. And even this weight does not feel natural to me. It's a physical discomfort. It's not so much for, yes, I would like to look thinner, but it's not so much that. It's more, it makes me feel so uncomfortable. So you're right in that it's very much all connected.
Yeah. And it doesn't feel natural when you're reaching for food because it's not your natural response. It's your conditioned response. It's your learned response.
Mm-hmm.
It's the response that you figured out at a young age to manage difficulty and intensity.
Mm-hmm.
And if from that eating you gain weight, it makes perfect sense that, wait a second, the behaviors that I did weren't natural. The extra weight doesn't feel natural to me. So in an ideal universe, no blame, no self-attack, no self-judgment. This is what the young Isabelle knew to do, learned to do to survive. So
Mm-hmm.
a survival strategy all these years.
Mm-hmm.
When a certain level of intensity hits, I gotta check out a little bit, eat some food. Whew, that feels better.
Yeah.
So in a strange way, whenever you are turning to food to bring down intensity, there's a part of you that's reliving the trauma called, oh my God, this is so intense, I can't deal with it. What do I got to do?
Mm.
Let me turn to food. We symbolically will keep living out the original offense. So right now, your brain is interpreting intense feelings as that unwanted event from the past.
Mm.
It's equating your intense feelings, intense happiness, intense sadness, intense confusion, intense frustration, intense fear, intense anxiety, intense passion, intense anything.
Mm-hmm.
It just immediately interprets, oh my God, that level of intensity, bad.
Mm-hmm.
Fix it. And so that's an automatic and habitual response of your brain because you think you're in survival mode in the moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you're learning how to uncouple those automatic, unconscious, repetitive behaviors, i.e., certain level of emotional intensity. That means I'm in danger. Better eat something.
Mm-hmm.
So you're learning, oh, wait a second. Here's a question to ask yourself. When you notice you're about to eat and you kind of notice that, something, this is one of those moments when I'm eating, when I'm really turning to food.
Mm-hmm.
A good question to ask yourself might be, and this might sound silly, but is this moment life-threatening right now?
Mm.
Is my life truly being threatened right now? Is there any way that I can notice that I'm safe?
Mm.
Because if you think about it in that moment, you're not being attacked, you're not being assaulted, your life is not under threat. Oh, I'm actually safe.
Mm. That's amazing. Yeah.
Because so much of what you said about those 6 weeks that were magical, you used the term safety or safe. I felt safe.
Yes.
Because once you had the realization of how everything was connected, you realize, oh, wait a second, I'm safe now.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
not in that situation. Woo!
Yes.
And life gave you a beautiful experience of what life is like when you and I feel safe.
Yes.
We don't do all these behaviors that are trying to protect us from a boogeyman that's not really there in the moment.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, am I safe? Is this life threatening? And then maybe from there, it's beginning to invite the feeling. Forget about food for a moment, even though you're ready to turn to food. Invite the feeling called, oh, I'm safe.
Mm-hmm.
What does safety feel like?
Mm.
Begin to notice what safety feels like in your body. especially times when you literally do feel safe and you're in comfort.
Yeah.
I'd like you to more and more notice what safety feels like to you. What's going on in your body when you're safe? How do you feel? How does your skin feel? What's your mind doing? There's a certain feeling you have when you're safe that just lives in your whole body.
Yeah. Yeah.
So as you invite that feeling in more, when you invoke it, well, wait a second, I'm about to turn to food. I kind of do that when I'm not feeling safe. Sometimes I don't feel safe when my emotions are pretty intense. Makes sense because a long time ago, I went through intense experiences and I wasn't safe. I literally and physically was not safe. I emotionally was not safe.
Mm-hmm.
So we're learning to get into present time. I am safe.
Yeah.
And it might even be telling your brain the simplest messages. I'm loved. I'm in a good relationship. I have a beautiful daughter.
Mm-hmm.
I'm an amazing woman that's growing and learning and creating a wonderful life for myself. Safety.
Yeah.
It's not about fighting the food. No, I shouldn't eat that.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the correct response. The correct response is really understanding, okay, what is my soul? What's my being trying to learn here? In large part, it's trying to learn safety. Because then when you're safe, when we're safe, I don't know, some creature is chasing you and you're running all around the jungle and you finally escape and you climb to a mountain and you can see that creature's all the way down there and you know, whoa, I'm safe now.
Yeah.
And in the moment we feel safe, what happens? We get present, we relax, and then I can say, okay, what's next now?
Yeah.
Do I want to eat the whatever you eat when you're not feeling safe? Is that going to be the best food for me?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I don't need to eat food. Maybe I do need to eat something right now, but just make a good choice for myself that's going to make my body feel good. In a moment of safety, we go into relaxation response. You have more of you present because you're in your body.
Yeah. Yeah.
How you doing, Isabelle?
Everything you're saying is just resonating so deeply for me. I hadn't really thought about it quite in that way, but I love how when I reach out for foods to really ask myself that question. Yeah, I think that's a really, really wonderful advice. And that's something I'm going to do. And also because sometimes the food that I eat often, it's not because I beat myself up over it, but it's that I just physically don't feel good after eating it. It doesn't actually, it's like an emptiness sometimes, but it doesn't fill that emptiness. And as you say, by connecting that to the safety feeling, I think that's more of that's more where I need to go.
That's what your body's hungering for in the moment. Your body just wants to feel safe. Why? Because back then it wanted to feel safe.
Yeah.
That's what we want as young people, as any age, you want to feel safe, but especially when you're young.
Yeah.
The hopefully the job of the big people world, the job of the adult world, the parent world is to create enough safety for the children such that when we're ready, we can go out in the world and be okay.
Yeah.
And when we come out of our family environment not feeling safe, then we're going to have to find activities to do that make me feel safe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and you chose something to do to make you feel safe, that's actually a very good choice. I'm glad you chose food to make you feel safe, and you didn't choose, I don't know, heroin, or you didn't choose an intense drug. You didn't choose cocaine. You didn't choose alcohol. You didn't choose suicide. You chose like, hey, let me just eat some food. That makes me feel better.
Yeah.
It's actually a good choice. It's a wise choice. So important to remember to forgive yourself there, that this is not really a food problem. Food is the symptom.
Yeah.
And this is all about, again, you learning as an adult now. This is the first time in your life where you are just so ready to be you and to be the real you. And part of that means I'm safe. I'm okay. Look around you. Look at the circumstances. I'm actually safe. I've created a good world for myself.
Yeah. And to be able to express and reinvent who I am in a way, and to really find my voice, because that's what I feel that part of me has been missing for a long time. It's just not, maybe just having put that in a box somewhere from a very long time ago. And I feel so ready to come out more as my authentic self now.
Because that also makes us feel safe. Because when my voice comes out in its authentic self, I can say no to something that doesn't work for me. I can say yes for something that I want to do. I can say, here's my preference. Here's what I want. Here's my desire. I don't have to worry about, am I going to get what I want? No, I can speak it into the world. Mm-hmm. So you stepping into who you are by itself creates safety, because you know that you can trust yourself.
Yeah.
You know that you can count on yourself. As a young person, you want to count on the adults in your world. You want to be able to count on your mother. You couldn't count on her.
Yeah.
So now you're learning how to count on you.
Yeah, and I'm learning to do that. Yes.
Isabelle, I think you're doing a wonderful job. I'm just really so inspired by this conversation and so inspired by your journey. And I think you're doing this with just a lot of heart and a lot of dignity, and you just carry yourself and express yourself in just such a beautiful way. And I think you're so much closer to where you want to be than you think you are.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I so much enjoyed this conversation, and it's a real honor to have this time with you.
Same here, Isabelle. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, and thanks, my friends, for tuning in to the Psychology of Eating podcast. Take care, everybody.
Hey friends, we're so happy that you've joined us for another episode of the Psychology of Eating with Marc David. Are you loving these episodes? Then simply subscribe and you'll never miss an episode again. We'd also love it if you'd leave us a comment below so we can hear more about your own journey with food and body. And if you're curious about what we offer at the Institute for the Psychology of Eating, including our internationally acclaimed coach certification training that's rooted in dynamic eating psychology and mind-body nutrition, please head on over to our website, psychologyofeating.com. Until next time, take care, and remember, having the body you want starts with loving the body you have.